All right, welcome back to the 34th episode of the podcast, The Unknown. I am Michael Volpe. I report from Chicago, Illinois, which is in Cook County, Illinois. My broadcast partner, as always, is Richard Lootman, reports from near Fort Myers, Florida, Lee County, named after Robert Edward Lee. You've had a recent medical issue, and that's why you're only audio. We don't need to get too deep into it. Hopefully, you're going to be you're kind of all right now, but hopefully you'll be all right in the next couple of weeks, and you'll be back to video. Is that
I
right?
should be. Hopefully, Mike. It's one can only hope. Everybody needs to see my beautiful face. You know how it is.
I agree with that. So we're going to start with current events, and for the last week, and I got to find it. it. It's been nothing but trade talks, and I'm going to get up a New York Times article. So Trump has put in tariffs on, I believe, every country, and I think the minimum is 10%. It's going like 100% on China, 25% on other countries. We are near bear market territories in terms of the averages since he's done that. He's getting a lot of heat and a lot of heat from supporters. Ken Langone, who started Home Depot, was a huge supporter of Republicans. He doesn't like it. Bill Ackman, um, he wants him to pause the tariffs, though he does agree that we need to redo trade. Ackman is a billionaire as well. I think he's a hedge fund guy was a Democrat until a long time ago, until very recently, and then he voted for Trump. But tell everyone why this is a power move and why Trump is going to succeed on these tariffs.
Well, you saw how the markets reacted initially to the uncertainty, and that's what it was. It was markets reacting to uncertainty. And we saw about an 8% drop in the markets because of the uncertainty. But then we saw about 3% coming back, almost 4% coming back, when about over 50 countries said they would come to the table and they recalculated the costs of goods and services and everything else based upon the prospective deals that were going to be made. And then we're flat today in the markets because of China putting more retaliatory tariffs back on the United
And the
States.
U
Now,
and the
the big
EU.
issue, and the EU as well, but the big issue we have is that the United States and China were already in a trade war. We
Right.
just weren't arming ourselves or even acknowledging that it existed.
All right,
And
hold
so
on.
what
Let me
Trump is,
let me interrupt you. If if the US and China was in a trade war, which I agree with, and the only side fighting the war was China, why are we sticking tariffs on every country? Why aren't we focusing our tariffs strictly on China?
well, we are, but that's the point is that the United States has been getting ripped off for a lot of years. Trump said it the right way, and like Canada is a perfect example. They
Okay,
take a
but
lot more than they give.
again, well, they take in a lot more than they give, or the imbalance is in part because of the imbalance in the economies. But with Canada, Trump is the one who made the deal, the USMCA. So why are they still ripping us off if he's the one who made the deal?
Well, the deal is a terrible deal. It was an okay
Well,
deal when he
who
made it, but
made
it's a
the
terrible
then?
deal now. So what Trump needs to do, and what he's doing is he's putting all the countries in the world on notice, particularly the ones in our hemisphere, that the days of the free ride are over.
Mhm,
And the fact of the matter is, what you don't want to be, and you have 50 countries right away, plus 50
mhm.
countries plus that have said we want to make deals with you, President Trump
All right, let
and
me
and
interrupt you
Rubio.
on
But
that.
no, 50 plus. They don't want to be the country
Wait,
that
let me
Trump is
interrupt
going to
you.
to leave out in the cold and
Mhm.
make an example out of. And there's going to be a country out there that he makes an example out of and doesn't do anything with. He's already done it with the Southern Sudanese Republic with respect to the visas and
Mhm.
revoking all the visas because they didn't take back their people quickly enough. He'll do that with trade with one country and nobody wants to be that country. No one wants to play musical chairs with Trump and be the one left without a seat. That's what it comes down to.
All right. Well, first of all, the 50 comes straight from the US that's not only not confirmed by the 50 countries, but somebody calling you isn't a deal. I This is why I voted for him in 2016. However, it was predicated on making a deal with China, which he didn't do. So I'm soured on his trade philosophy. Trump definitely has an outside the box trade philosophy. He believes that we are getting ripped off, as you said, that countries stick tariffs on us and we don't stick them back, that countries make it hard for us, for our businesses to sell there, and we don't do that. Some countries, namely China, will manipulate their currency, steal our proprietary information, talking about China primarily, uh, and that the way to fight back is through tariffs and to coerce countries into deals, as you described. But he's risking his entire presidency. I don't know if he can pull this off. He's saying a lot of different things. The messaging on this is not great because on one side of his mouth he's saying this is how we're going to bring in manufacturing, and the other side of his mouth he's going to say this is how we're going to get countries to the table and we're going to remove all the tariffs. So it's one or the other. The bringing back manufacturing, in my opinion, is a pipe dream. Bringing countries to the table and getting deals is not impossible, but he seems like he's taken on a lot by sticking tariffs on everyone. England should be a no-brainer. Israel should be a no-brainer. Australia, though, that country has very similar economy, as similar as it gets, and culture to us. Argentina should be a no-brainer because he and Malai get along very well. But whether we can make deals with the EU, Canada, China, I don't. China, that would be monumental. He would be a transformative president if we made a deal that was even close to mutually beneficial, because their whole raison d'etre is to manipulate us and grow their economy that way. And that's what they've been doing for a long time. I agree with you that he's the only one that's talked about it. Nobody else would dare do this. But so far, the result is nearly 20% drop in the market and a lot of talk about a recession. So the deals need to start to roll in before this looks like it's wise.
Look at it. Look at the worst case, Mike. Let's say it's China, right? And let's say we're in a prolonged situation, like trade war situation, high tariffs. The United States can sustain for 3 months, 6 months, and in the 6 month mark is when we'll start to see the relief and the supply lines and the manufacturing, locally and from other places kick in to cover a lot of the Chinese production. But in 6 months there will be riots in the streets. There'll be no food for the people. They are not equipped the same way to weather the storm that we are. So in the long run, it'll be a little bit of pain for us if we go full out for a trade war. But in 6 months' time, we'll be fine, and they will be destroyed. So that's the calculus here.
The worst case scenario is that he's going to create a recession where one didn't need to be. So that's the worst case scenario. All right. So I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, but a huge victory on the surface for President Trump. And let me get this up. For President Trump in the Supreme Court. And here it is, breaking in April 7th, so Monday. Breaking, the Supreme Court allows the Trump administration to use the Wartime Aliens Enemies Act of 1798 to quickly deport Venezuelan migrants. This guy's probably a liberal. Deemed to be part of Tren de Aragua gang, suspending.
Tren de Aragua.
So on the surface, he won, but if you dig deep, and it doesn't even have to be that deep, the U.S. Supreme Court, and this was a 5-4 decision. I think Amy Coney Barrett went with the liberals, and the other 5 conservatives voted in a block. So it's 5-4. But they did say that they're supposed to get due process. So you were wrong on that. And tell everyone why this is a huge victory. And then you and I are going to debate the Aliens and Enemies Act.
I am not wrong about due process because the idea of due process that we were talking about was due process before an Article 3 judge. And nowhere do they say that due process is before an Article 3 judge before deportation. Process that is due to Tren de Aragua criminals is unclear. And so, from my opinion, all that means is that they have to have somebody standing there that is, an administrative judge that the Tren de Aragua people can say, here's what I have to say. And the judge hears it and then, stamps it and says, keep moving. If really they have one hell of a story to tell, and there's really a due process, quote unquote, issue that they're not a criminal, that there's a mistaken identification, it will be caught by that administrative judge. But they're not getting an Article 3 judge. There's no reason for them to have an Article 3 judge. And that's going to be the litigation here. I think it's a lot of hot air. It's a lot of fake news that Article 3 judges are going to hear every Tren de Aragua case.
The U.S. Supreme Court said they have a right to bring a habeas corpus petition. Right. Who is going to hear that? That is that term habeas corpus is in the U.S. Supreme Court decision. So who is supposed to hear that habeas corpus petition?
A magistrate judge could hear it. A judge can hear it, but it's not necessarily going to be an Article 3 judge.
All right.
It could be an administrative law judge.
Sounds like this distinction without a difference. Now let's debate. The U.S. Supreme Court is on your side, but if you and I were arguing this in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, I've got it up to the key. This is the text. Now, before we argue, I am what you would call an originalist, which means that what is on the page or on the screen, as it will, as it was written, that's what it means. That you do not, like with Michelle McDonald, where they say you're supposed to be learned in the law, and next thing you know, learning in the law means you got to have a law degree, or not a law degree, an active and in good standing law license. I don't do that. I look at what's on the screen, the words, and I interpret them to mean what they're supposed to mean based on what's written. Is that how you are, or do you think it's like a living, breathing Constitution, and in this case, a living, breathing law?
It's a dead document, and I do interpret the words. Mm-hmm. And the words I want you to look at, Michael, are the words that say invasion or predatory incursion.
We're going to get to that. I have it set up that whenever there shall be a declared war between the United States and any foreign government, is there a declared war between the United States and any foreign government?
Yes.
What is that declared war? Which country are we in?
The war on terror.
That is not a declared war with any foreign nation or government.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
It's as a nation or government it was understood in the year 1791. The caliphates, the terrorist caliphates that it was declared against in the wake of 2001 are terrorist organizations. And by analogy, terrorist organizations include now Tren de Aragua and MS-13 and some of these other places.
All right. That is not an originalist view, but we're going to get to the next part. There is no declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government. We haven't had a declared war since World War II. Or any invasion or predatory incursion shall be perpetrated, attempt, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government. Is there an invasion or predatory incursion perpetrated by any foreign nation or government?
Yes. The Venezuelan government emptied their prisons and sent their worst, sent their mentally ill, sent their criminals. Now, first, Mike, hold
on. But here is the problem. Here is the problem. President Trump has not applied the Aliens Enemies Acts to any Venezuelan. He has applied them to what are they called again? Tren de Aragua, which is
Tren de Aragua.
Tren de Aragua. They are a multinational criminal gang. They are not a nation or government.
They were sent
So
by the government.
they may have been sent by the government, but if he said
Michael, that's a distinction without a difference.
it is not a distinction without a difference, it clearly says right here by any foreign nation or government. A criminal gang is neither a foreign nation nor a government. That's my argument.
There,
You give your argument as the last word. Go ahead.
okay. The first part is that first clause doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Okay, the first clause we can throw out. It's the
Mhm.
second clause. It's that whenever there shall be and any invasion or predatory incursion that shall be perpetrated, attempted, or threatened, right? And so
Against the
this is
territory of the United States by any
yes.
foreign nation or government. There you go.
So
Okay.
the argument is that these foreign nations emptied their prisons and routed the border and created incursions upon the United States border, and they
Mhm.
weren't sending their best; they were sending their worst, and they were using these gangs as as weapons. They were missiles lodged at the United States border in the form of persons, in the form of groups. One of them
Mhm.
being Tren de Aragua, the other being MS-13. And the law itself gives the ability of the Secretary of State and the Commander in Chief, the President, to determine who those people are. And that's what they did.
All right. That is the argument. As I said, that is a criminal gang. It's neither a foreign nation or a foreign government. And that's my argument. All right. So we have an Elon Files segment. Elon is in the news so much that we have to talk about him every week. This is more of a negative article from Forbes, and it is entitled Elon's Edsel Tesla's Cybertruck is the auto industry's biggest flop in decades. The Edsel is, of course, the Ford Edsel, which has like a tragic history. It was created by Henry Ford II to honor his dad, Edsel Ford, who was verbally, emotionally, and psychologically abused by his dad, Henry Ford, and it turned into a huge flop. Though Henry II did a good job in general, but imagine you create a car to honor your dad and nobody buys it. And so the article goes through the Cybertruck is not selling, but it's not only the Cybertruck that's not selling. Tesla is having sales revenue and earnings problems, and they are being reflected by the stock price. And so, have we come to the point where Elon Musk's many interests, including political, are damaging his brand and his number one and most important entity, Tesla, the one company that is a publicly traded company, the company anyone in the world can own just by going to the New York Stock Exchange. I believe it's on the NYSE and buying. And does he have a responsibility to more focus on this publicly traded company, which has, and we'll show you where the stock price is at, which has fallen off. And is he driving this company into a ditch with Doggy and all of his other activities?
I think that the article is fallaciously propositioned in the sense that if it was the Etzel, it would be a flop because of the actual product itself, the technology itself. And that's not the issue here. The issue isn't the technology, the Cybertruck itself. The Cybertruck is excellent technology. As far as electric vehicles go, it's an excellent
That's
vehicle.
not
And
what the article says, though.
no, but the issue is, and you're saying that the sales
Mhm.
are down because of a coordinated campaign against Tesla and against Elon Musk. Well,
That's not what I'm saying.
well, you know
It,
what? Well, no, you know what? If they want to destroy the electric car, if the left wants to destroy the electric car, yeah, let
mhm,
them do it. I think that the electric car is an excellent tool, but at the end of the day, I think we need combustion engines. So if they want to destroy the electric car that they've
mhm,
spent a generation trying to propel, if they want to destroy it within the span of 6 months, let them
mhm.
do it. That's the left for you.
All right.
All they know how to do is destroy.
I the truck is extremely heavy and it's a lot more expensive than what he promised. It's going at 82,000. It said he was he was targeting it about 40 or 50,000 as they were developing it. So that's part of the problem. But the bigger problem is the Cybertruck is not the only product that's having struggles in Tesla. And
Every Tesla's having struggles, Mike,
right.
because
And
and
so
it's not because of the product itself and the technology. It's because of the demand, the media issue involved
is
with
it
it, the
the
virtue
media
signaling.
or are the products not not performing the way they should? And this
All
is
this
a
started, Mike.
so
Look what
look
it
this.
started. It started just before November when he was
Mhm,
in Pennsylvania,
mhm,
stumping for Trump during the whole month of September and October. And there was a coordinated attack by the
mhm,
left to say, let's get Elon Musk. And it's only grown since the election. And that's
mhm.
what this problem is. And maybe you're right. Maybe if Elon was worried only about his businesses
But
and he
should
wasn't worried
he?
about politics, he'd be
Oh,
doing better with stock price. Maybe you're right about
oh,
that.
well, Tesla is publicly traded. He has a duty not only to his customers and his employees, but to his shareholders, which is the entire public. If you have at least $230, a little less right now, you can own one share of Tesla. If you got $2,300, you can own 10 shares of Tesla. You become a part owner. Anyone can be an owner, and it seems like he's got way too many interests. No,
No, because here's the issue. The voters have the right, the shareholders have the right to vote him out. They can't because he has the
but
control. But if
that
you're
was
saying,
the
Mike, wait, Mike, if you're saying that he's breaching his fiduciary duty to his shareholders, that is a very high standard, a legal standard to get to because of something called the business judgment rule. And in
Mhm.
Delaware, where Tesla is incorporated, the business judgment rule protects corporate officers and directors probably more strongly than anywhere else in the world. The business judgment rule, they could say it's within his business judgment to hang out in Washington all day long near the president to try to get
I
benefits for Tesla. That
I
and so he's not breaching his fiduciary duty to his shareholders at this point at all in any way.
he may not be legally, but his many interests look like they're affecting his number one most important brand, and I hope he believes it's his number one most important brand, which is Tesla, the publicly traded company. One other thing, the PE ratio, 113, is still extremely high, especially for a company that is where sales and earnings are suffering. I just want to Meta, which is Facebook, the PE ratio 21. All right. Um, Alphabet, which owns, among other things, Google, and how come that's not coming up? Um, Let me see if we find the PE ratio here. I don't know. Oh, yeah, 17.
17.9.
17. That PE ratio is extremely high. That tells me that stock's got a long way to go down the way that that the sales and revenues are performing. So I if he's not if he doesn't get himself engaged with Tesla, this thing could drop a lot more than it's dropped already. Um, Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think he's doing fine. He's going to be stepping away a little bit anyway because of the 90-day rule that's
Mhm.
coming up. But I think everything's going to correct itself.
Right, but he doesn't run Twitter or X. He did hire a CEO for that. He's got a lot of balls in the air. Anything else you wanted to add on and I think it's 120 days, but anything else you wanted to add on current events?
I think that we're closer to a sit down with Iran than we've been in a long time. I think
Mhm.
that after the Netanyahu meeting in the White House, I think that there's a good chance that there's going to be a deal. I think that Trump is the only person that could ever do the table on that. And I think that's very, very positive for that region.
Are we going to have a ceasefire anytime soon in Ukraine, or how's that looking? We haven't. The reason we haven't talked about Ukraine in a few weeks is because, frankly, there's just war and nothing happening on a ceasefire. I'm not going to keep arguing it. But any closer to a ceasefire there?
Well, they're working it. We'll see.
They're working it. All right. It's been over a month since the president of Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire.